What's up, guys? So we're gonna go ahead and get into episode 2, meat and potatoes. What we're gonna be doing today is we're gonna be cooking a skirt steak, and it's also known as a butcher's steak. It's real tender, real delicate, thin, hard to mess up. This is one of the few steaks that you could actually go well done and not ruin it. We're gonna be cooking it clean rare, medium rare today. We're also gonna accompany that with some fondant potatoes. Along with the fondant potatoes, some blanched asparagus. So follow me. Let's go cook. So welcome back, everybody. What I'm doing right here is I'm chopping up some russet potatoes. I just need to chop them into squares, and those little bits on the end, don't really throw those away. I mean, you can use those for mashed potatoes or chop them up into fries. There's a bunch of other things you can do with them. But once you get your russet potatoes cut into nice little squares, what you're going to want to do is preferably get a oven safe pan. You see I have another pan on the side. I end up transferring over to that later on. But you're going to put them in some barely smoking grease. I used avocado oil. Be careful because you see it splashing all over the place. Now, these are called fondant potatoes. They sear on one side. Once you get a good sear, you go ahead, flip them over like that. Season one side, salt and pepper. You flip them over, season them again. And then what you're going to do is you're going to add some chicken stock or chicken broth, whatever you have on hand, as well as some butter, some aromatics, rosemary, thyme, some sage if you like, other things like that. But I did some rosemary, thyme, and some butter. What this is going to do is it's going to kind of infuse the potatoes. There you go, seasoning the other side. And the last thing I'm going to do is add that broth. Then off camera, I'm going to transfer them to that pan, put them in a 350 degree oven for about 25 minutes until they're fork tender. Now, with the steak, I know I said we were going to do skirt steak, but I couldn't get that from the butcher. So we went with top sirloin. What I did was, off camera, I salted them, let them come up to room temperature. You see that this pan is extremely hot. I preheated it in the oven at 500 degrees. It will stick to the pan initially. That's what you want. But what happens is there's something called a Maillard reaction. The meat heats up, it forms a crust, and it releases itself from the pan. There's a little bit that will stick to the bottom. That's called the fond. That's really great for gravies or other sauces. Right here you can see as I flip them over, throwing some butter in now. And same thing, some aromatics. So you see I chopped the shallot in half, some garlic, a little more butter, and some more thyme and rosemary. Now, this is going to infuse the butter and just go ahead and baste the steaks with those. The leaves get on it is fine. And then what you're going to want to do is take the steaks out to rest. And once you take the steaks out to rest, once you see that beautiful crust right there, I basted it a few more times to get some extra flavor. But you let it rest for half the time you cooked it. So I cooked these steaks for about, I'd say about like 4 minutes per side. So you're going to let it rest for 4 minutes. It took a total 8 minutes. Put it on the platter, and then I just throw the aromatics right on top of it. And you don't need to cover it or anything. Just set it on the side. And with that fond on the bottom, just go ahead and throw some asparagus in. Go ahead and toss them around. And one little trick with the asparagus, if you bend it in half right here at the stem, where it breaks, that's where the fibrous end is at, and you cook the top part. Now, I just left the asparagus in there for a bit, threw some butter in, and it still has a lot of that flavor from the steak and whatnot. Just mix it around. It got a good sear on the asparagus. And once it was tender to my liking, I went ahead and pulled them out. It was about like 3 or 4 minutes in the pan, not very long. The next thing I did was took the fondant potatoes out of the oven. Once you take the fondant potatoes out, they're going to be crisp on the top, real soft and tender on the bottom. Real beautiful. And now that the steak is rested, what we're going to do is, you can leave it whole, but I like to slice it up for a presentation. Now, you want to cut across the grain. Never cut with the grain, cut across the grain. That's how you get the most tender. I'm cutting it at a slight angle right here. And I know this is kind of off topic, but I'm not cutting with my left hand. I'm actually cutting with my right. The camera orientation makes it look like I'm doing everything a little backwards, but I am right-handed. Now see, this is that medium rare that I was going for. It's between rare, medium rare. We're going to go ahead and set this aside, and we're going to dress the plate. Now, what I did was I took a little beet puree. If you guys want to learn how to make the beet puree and the carrot puree, just go ahead, drop a comment, let me know what you want me to make, and I will show you guys how to do that. Real simple. See, I just smeared it with a spoon. Now, this is an art form. Whatever you could think of doing, little chef trick is to build high. So you see, I took the steak, put it on top of the beet puree. The beet puree is real mild, so it's not overpowering the steak. I went ahead and threw a couple of the fondant potatoes on. You gotta be really gentle with those. And you see, it kind of worked out in my benefit. There's a little piece of thyme that stuck to that. I thought it looked good, so I left it there. Threw another one on there at an angle, and what I did was I topped it with some asparagus and went back and got some arugula and just put that up at the top. Then just little dots of the carrot puree all over the plate. Finish it off with a few more dots of the beet puree, and I mean, it looks great. It was delicious. I sat down almost immediately. I almost didn't want to take the pictures for it just because I was hungry and it looked delicious. It smelled delicious. It was great cooking. It was fun. This is a really quick, easy date night dinner you can do for somebody. You want to impress somebody. And realistically, you could do this with any good cut of beef, and it's not expensive. You could do this for less than $20 realistically. And look at that. It looked like a pro chef doing something like that. Impress your date, impress your friends, impress your family. And yeah, you could add other things to make the plate a little higher. Do some more pepper over top of the steak just to complement the look of the steak. And that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is my second video, and I'm going to try to keep up with them. I'm going to go finish this plate. It's delicious.